So, good morning. We had started the process costing. So I want us now to proceed on that item for the process costing. So which item did we write last? We had gone up to which level? The last time we were in class. You are writing something about the Are we on the process costing with the work in progress? I suspect that is where we stopped.
Okay, sir. Actually,
Alan, you let me know the last item that we discussed. So are we doing the work in progress? So you are to check the weighted average. The weighted average method. We had written the one for the first in, first out. Yeah, so we can write something brief on the weighted average method before we can now proceed to do the question. So you can write that. You should be able to write that this method does not give any priority. This method does not give any priority. Does not give any priority to the opening work in progress. To the opening work in progress, and therefore, when computing the equivalent units, therefore, when computing the equivalent units, comma, so did we write NB, some notes? Did we write something about NB or some notes? Yeah, so if we had written 4 points, so we were to do a question on that. So if we had written some 4 points, then you are to start on a question. So now the question I would like us to start on. Now the question I would like us to start on. So we can now do the question. So we do the question for the sitting of May 2021. May 2021, question number 4. We can now check May 2021, question number 4. So that question for May 2021, question 4 reads that the following information is available for process 2. The following information is available for process 2 of Winner Fabrication Limited for the month of September 2020. For the month of September 2020. So opening stock, there were 4,800 units valued at 165,000. Degree of completion were given for material 2. Materials, labor, and also the ones for the overheads. So additional information, note number 1, transfer from process 1 amounted to 30,600 units, valued at 3 or 6,000. Note number 2, additional cost incurred in process 2 included direct materials, direct labor, and also production overheads. Note number 3, units scrapped amounted to 2,400 with the following degree of completion. With the following degree of completion. So they gave you material as 100, labor 70, then overhead 70. Note number 4, closing stock was 5,400 units with the following degree of completion. So material is 60%, labor is 40%, then overhead is also 14%. So transfer to process 3 amounted to 27,600 units. Note number 6, there was a normal loss of 10% of the production in the process. Note number 7, units scrapped realized 10 shillings per unit. So required part A, statement of equivalent production. Part B, cost of equivalent units for each element of the process. Then part C, process 2 account using the first in, first out method. So when we are using the FIFO method, so here we are applying the FIFO method, first in, first out method. So we are using the FIFO method. We are applying the FIFO method. So when we are using the FIFO method, we start off with, there are 6 steps. Before we go to that part A of the question, part A is about the statement of equivalent production. But that is meant to be the step number 3. That is meant to be the step number 3. So the step number 1 will be the statement of production. The first one will be the statement of the production in units. Statement of production in units. So the first one should be the statement of production in units. So we write something brief about that statement. We note that it shows whether there is abnormal gain or abnormal loss. It shows whether there is abnormal gain or abnormal loss. It shows whether there is abnormal gain or abnormal loss as follows. So we start off with, so we want to get those units. So we start off with the opening work in progress. We start off with the opening work in progress. So opening work in progress was given you in the first paragraph. It was 4,800 units. It was 4,800 units. Then you are supposed to add. You add from process 1. From process 1. What was transferred in from process 1? You are to check it in the note number 1. Transfer from process 1 amounted to 30,600 units. So these are 30,600 units. Then you are supposed to less the closing work in progress. So closing work in progress, you go to the note number 4. Closing stock was 5,400. Closing work in progress is 4,500. So get the difference so that we get the production. So to come up with the production in units. So to get the production in units. So how many will be there as the production in units? What should be now the production in units? Yeah, you are the only one in class, so you add, you give me faster. Remember, you add 4,800 plus 3, so the last one, this one you minus, the 5,400 you less. The 5,400 you are supposed to less. You less the 5,400. Remember, it is opening work in progress. You add from process 1, then you less the closing work in progress. Yeah, it cannot be 40,800. The last one you subtract. So it will be able to give you 30,000 units. It's going to give us 30,000 units. Then after that, now you also compute the normal loss. You also get the normal loss. Normal loss was given to you. Normal loss was given to you in the note number 6. There was a normal loss of 10% of the production. So it will be 10% of the 30,000. The production is 30,000. So 10% of 30,000. 10% of 30,000, so this will be 3,000. So when you subtract, we shall now be able to get the expected output. It will be able to give you the expected output. So expected output is now going to be 27,000, like that. Then we compare that with the actual output. We compare expected output by the actual output. So actual output, you got the question when you check in the note number 5, they had said that transfer to process 3 amounted to 27,600. So this one is 27,600. So actual output is more. So this one will give you abnormal gain. This one is abnormal gain. So you have abnormal gain of 600 units. So that step number 1 is meant to enable you to know whether you have abnormal gain or abnormal loss. So that's now how you will be working out in order to come up with either abnormal gain or abnormal loss. So alternatively, you can get the same figure by applying this format, where you start off with the normal loss. So our normal loss, it is given as the 10% of the 30,000. So it had given you 3,000 like that. Normal loss was actually 3,000. The normal loss was meant to be 3,000. So we compare that. So the question is for the sitting of May 2021. May 2021, question number 4. May 2021, question 4. So when you compare that to the units scrapped, we compare that to the units scrapped. So units scrapped, they were able to give you in the note number 3. Units scrapped amounted to 2,400. So when you subtract, we still get the abnormal gain. You get abnormal gain of 600 like that. So that's now the order on how we should be able to go about. So we are doing the question for the sitting of May 2021, question number 4. It is the process costing with the work in progress. It is meant to be the process costing with the work in progress. So what we are doing, we are following the steps which we need to follow so that we can be able to come up with the process account. So that's now our step number 1. That will be the step number 1 when you use the first in, first out method under the work in progress. So we got the step number 2. We got the step number 2. So the step number 2 will be to assist you to come up with units started and completed in the current period. Our step number 2, we shall be able to come up with units started and completed in the current period. We now come up with the step number 2. We need to get the units started and completed in the current period. So our step number 2, we simply calculate units started and completed in the current period. Units started and completed in the current period. So when you want to calculate units started and completed, you simply start the actual output. You subtract the opening work in progress minus opening work in progress. So actual output is given to you in the note number 5. Transfer to process 3 is what is supposed to be the actual output. It is 27,600. Opening work in progress is what you are given in the first paragraph as 4,800. So get the difference to give us what should be our unit started and completed in the current period. So that we come up with units started and completed in the current period. So how many units shall we be starting? So 22,800. They are meant to be 22,800. So that is now our step number 2. That is now meant to be our step number 2. We get 22,800. So our step number 3 is the same as part A of the question. Our step number 3 is the same as the part A of the question. That will be statement of equivalent production. So our step number 3 is the same as part A of the question, where we prepare the statement of equivalent units. We prepare the statement of equivalent units. We now prepare the statement of equivalent units. So this is now our statement of equivalent units. This is now our statement of equivalent units. This is now our statement of equivalent units. So this is now how to come up with our statement of equivalent units. So in the statement of equivalent units, we start off with the input, then units, then also the output, then also the units. So this question had 2 types of materials. There were material transferred in from the previous process. Then materials were added. So we have 2 types of materials. We have material 1, material 2. There is also labor and also overheads. So they were meant to be summarized in that order. So we shall be having the units, degree of completion in form of percentages. So we summarize the table in that order. So we simplify our table in that order. So on the side of the input, we start off with the opening work in progress. We start off with the opening work in progress. So opening work in progress was given in the first paragraph where they gave you 4,800 units. Then you are supposed to include from process one, So from process 1 is what you are given in the note number 1 as 30,600. As 30,600. So that is now the information you will be able to record on the side of the input. That will be the information you will be recording in the side of the input. When it comes to the side of the output, when it comes to the side of the output, we shall start again with the opening work in progress. We start off again with the opening work in progress. So that same opening work in progress of 4,800. But we have said that that question has 2 types of materials. There is material 1, the one that was transferred in from the previous process. The one that was transferred in from the previous process and what has been added in the current process. So material 1 is what was brought in from the previous process. Then among the notes I gave you, we had written something that if the question has 2 types of materials, that is material 1 and 2, but they have only given you 1 degree of completion. They have only given you 1 degree of completion without indicating whether it is for material 1 or material 2. We normally assume the material 1 is 100% complete. So the one given is for material 2. The one given is meant to be for material 2. Then also in our assumption, we say that when we are dealing with the opening work in progress, we normally assume that, we normally say that we take the remaining percentage. We normally take the remaining percentage. So if we take the remaining percentage and it's 100% complete, so it will just be a 0. The remaining percentage will be a 0, so there will be a dash for that. Material 2 is now what you are given as 17%. Material 2 is what you are given degree of completion as 70%. The remaining percentage will be 30%. So you get 30% of 4,800. What should be 30% of 4,800? What should be 30% of the 4,800? What should be 30% of 4,800? Someone to compute to give me the figure. So 30% will give you 1440. So it is giving us 1440. 1440. Then material 2, so labor is what you are given there as 60%. So 60%, the remaining percentage will be 40%. So also get 40% of 4,800. We also get 40% of 4,800. What should be 40% of 4,800? What should be 40% of 4,800? So 19. So this will be 1920. So even the other one, because it is also 60%, it means the remaining balance is 40%, which will be able to give you 1920. That's now for the opening work in progress. the opening work in progress, we take the remaining percentages. So the next item will be the normal loss. The next item will be the normal loss. So normal loss, we calculated, and it was 3,000. When we check in the step number 1, so we assume it is 100%. So the normal loss, once it occurs, we have no control over it. Normal loss, once it occurs, we have no control over it. So in case it has happened, it will just remain there. So we record it as part of the output, but we cannot incur additional cost on it. We cannot incur additional cost on it for the normal loss. The next item will be abnormal gain. The question had abnormal gain. It had abnormal gain of 600. It had abnormal gain of 600. So for the abnormal gain, normally in the process account, we normally record it on the side of the output input. But now we are preparing the statement of equivalent units. That's why I will put it at that point. Then, to apportion the abnormal gain or loss, we normally use the units that were scrapped. So in the note number 3, the question had given you units that were scrapped. The degree of completion, they gave you 100% for material, labor 70, overhead 70. So we say that if they give you only 1 degree of completion without showing whether it is for material 1 or material 2, we assume material 1 is 100% complete. So for the material, for these other items, we take the degree of completion as given. But for the opening work in progress, we normally take the remaining percentage. So this one, we assume we shall take 100%, whereby we shall still have the 600 at that level. Then, when it comes to material 2, is now the percentage that they have given you. Material 2 is what they have given you as 100%. So it is also 100%. So it will be 600, which must also be, we are subtracting it because that's why I'm putting it in brackets. When it comes to labor, in the note number 3, labor it is 70%. So we get 70% of 600. What should be 70% of 600? It's 420. That would be 420 like that. Also for the overheads, the same case for the overheads. It is 70%. So 70% of 600 should be also 420. Like that. Should also be 420. So we also did our working units started and completed. Units started and completed in the current period. Units started and completed in the current period. So the units that were started and completed in the current period. So that one we did our working. We did that working, the step number 2. Step number 2, we calculated the units started and completed in the current period. So you had given me 22,800. You had given me 22,800. It was to 22,800. So because it was started and completed, we assume it is 100% complete at all stages. So this will be 100%, giving you 22,800. Also 100%, giving you 22,800. 100%, also giving you 22,800. Also 100%, giving you 22,800 like that. So those are now the units that were started and completed in the current period. Then apart from that, there is also the item of the closing work in progress. There is also closing work in progress like that. So closing work in progress, the closing work in progress, the closing work in progress, you are given the number of the units in the note number 4. Closing stock was 5,400. 5,400 in the note number 4. So the degree of completion, 60% for material, but there are two types of materials. We normally assume material 1 is 100% complete. So material 1, you say it is 100% complete, to just be 5,400. But the one given is now what you give to material 2, the 60%. The 60%, get 60% of 5,400. Get 60% of 5,400 and see it is giving us which figure. So what should be the 60% of 5,400? So 3240. So you get 3240. Then also you check the one for labor and overheads, they are 40%. So also get 40%. What is 40% of 5,400? What should be 40% of 5,400? So 2160. Also, this one is 40%, so also be 2160 like that. So get these totals. You now come up with those totals. Remember, abnormal gain, you subtract the abnormal gain, you will be required to subtract. So the first one has given you a total of this first one is giving us a total of what? 35,400. So this one is 35,400. So this one must also be 35,400. How about this one? This one has given you how many units? This particular one, material one. Material one is giving us 27,600. So this one is 27,600. How about material two? Material two should be 27,880. Then labor is which figure? Labor should be what bar? Labor is 26,460. 26,460. Overhead is which figure? Also 26,460. So that should be our part A of the question, which is the same as the step number 3. That is part A of the question, which is the same as part B, which is the same as part A of the question. So that part A of the question is the step number 3. So now we got the step number 4, which is the same as the part B of the question. We got the step number 4, which is the same as part B of the question. So the part B of the question, we come up with the cost of equivalent units for each element of the costs. Cost of equivalent units. So we now got the step number 4 as the part B of the question. So part B of the question, which is the same as our step number 4, whereby we prepare the statement of equivalent units for each statement of the statement of costs. Statement of the cost per unit. So in the statement of the cost per unit, we should be having elements of costs. Elements of costs. We should be having elements of the costs. And also the cost equivalent units. Equivalent. Also the cost per unit, equivalent units, and also the cost per unit, equivalent units, and also the cost per unit. Elements of cost, the cost, equivalent units, and also the cost per unit. So we start off with material 1. We start off with material 1. So material 1 is what was transferred in from the previous process. Material 1 is what was transferred in from the previous process. So when you check note number 1, transfer from process 1 amounted to 30,600. They are valued at 306,000. Like that. They are valued at 306,000. So we less the normal loss from that figure. So normal loss, you remember it was 3,000. Normal loss, it was 3,000, but it was scrapped in the note number 7. Units scrapped were just 10 shillings. So you scrap them at 10 shillings, which is going to give us 13,000. So when you take 3 or 6,000 minus 30,000, should give us which figure? It should be able to give us which value? To be able to give us which value? So 376,000. So 370. We are not adding, we are subtracting. It is 276,000. 276,000 like that. So equivalent units for material 1, there were 27. So you divide by 27, 600. So you take this, divide by that to give you the cost per unit. So what should be our cost per unit for that one? What should be our cost per unit? So you get 10 shillings. So that one, you are taking this figure, divide by this units to get that. These units are this ones. You are given me those units. So that's now for material 1. We go to material 2. We go to material 2. Material 2, you check in the note number 2, additional cost incurred, direct materials. It is 134,400. 134,400 in the note number 2. So equivalent units are these ones, 27,800. So you get the value for that. The next one is supposed to be labor. Labor, you are given a figure of labor, it is 394,200. 394,200. So 394,200. This one is 26,460. Then overheads. It is supposed to be 525, 600. So it is 26,460. 26,460. So give me the figures. So this one I said is 880. So material 2, it is how much per unit? Material 2. When you take 134,400 divide by 27,880, it should be how much per unit? So you are getting 4.8. Material 2. So this one should be 4.82. How about labor? Labor should be which figure? Labor should give us which value? So labor is 14.9. 14.9. Then also confirm the overheads. Overhead should be which value? 1986. So add them together to give you the cost per unit. When you add them together, they should be able to give you the total cost per unit. So when you add them, you are getting a total of 49.58. 49.58. So that should be your part B of the question, which was meant to be the cost of equivalent units for each element of cost. So that's the step number 4, which is supposed to be your part A of the question. So we got the step number 5. So step 5 will be valuation of the abnormal gain. Valuation of abnormal gain will be valuation of the abnormal gain. When it comes to valuation of abnormal gain, we start off with the material 1. So material 1, want to see how to get the valuation for abnormal gain. So material 1, I suspect it was 600 multiplied by 10. Multiplied by 10, like that. So we are checking in part A of the question, which was the step number 3. So material 2 I suspect it was also meant to be 600. So this one you are to multiply by 4.82. 4.82. Then there is also the one for the labor. There is the one for the labor. Labor, I want you to check for me labor. Labor, there were how many units? Because it was meant to be 70%. 70% of 600 was 400 and what? 70% of 600 was 400 and So you also take the 420. This one you multiply by 14.9. The last one should be overheads. The last one is meant to be overhead. So for the overheads, because they are the same percentages, you also take 420. This one you multiply 19.86. 19.86. So when you add them together, they should give you the total cost. When you add them together, they should be able to give you the total cost. So that should be our step number 5. We got the step number 6, which is supposed to be valuation of the closing work in progress. We also got the step number 6, which is supposed to be valuation of the closing work in progress. Valuation of the closing work in progress. Closing work in progress. Valuation of the closing work in progress. So when it comes to valuation of the closing work in progress, we only change the units. Material 1, closing work in progress, there were 5,400. Material 1 was 5,400. So you remind me the one for material 2. Material 2 is supposed to be, remember the 60%? What was 60%? What was 60% of 5,400? 60% of 5,400 had given you how many units? So 3240. So this one will be 3240. Labor, it was meant to be 40%. 40% was supposed to give us how many units? 40% of 5,400. It was able to give us how many units? 2160. So this one should be 2160, also 2160. These others are remaining the same. So you get the cost by unit. So you add them together. So after that is now when we go to part C. Part C is now the last part of the question, how we prepare now the process 2 account. So after that, we now prepare the process 2 account. We now prepare the process 2 account. Now prepare process 2 account. So in the process 2 account, we start off the opening work in progress. Opening work in progress. So there were basically in the note in the first paragraph, there were 4,800. They had been valued at 165,000. 165,000. Then there is also material from process 1. From process 1. So from process 1 in the note number 1, there were 30,600. Total amount was meant to be 306,000. 306,000. That is now from process 1. The next one is supposed to be, the next one is material added. Materials added. Materials added. So materials added, we got the note number 2. Direct material was 134,400. 134,400. Like that. The next item there will be direct labor. Will be direct labor. So for labor, it is meant to be 394,200. 394. For the direct labor. Then production overheads. Production overheads. So the figure there, it is 525,600. 525,600. So those details are given. Then now there was also abnormal gain. There was also abnormal gain. So abnormal gain, there were 600 units. So you have done valuation of the abnormal gain. What figure are you getting as valuation for the abnormal gain? Valuation for the abnormal gain was how much? $23,491. $23,491. Then this other side, you'll have the normal loss. Normal loss, remember the 3,000, they were scrapped at 10, giving you 30,000. They were scrapped at 10, giving you 30,000. That's now for the normal loss. Then apart from the normal loss, now we also have to process output to what? To process 3. To process 3, you have been given in the note number 5, transfer to process 3, that is the output. It is 27,600. Then there is also the closing work in progress. So closing work in progress, there were 5,400. 5,400. So we also did valuation for the closing work in progress. So what figure were we able to get as the evaluation for the closing work in progress? You have just calculated that figure a few minutes ago. What was the evaluation for the closing work in progress? Valuation for the closing work in progress. $144,698. Are you all getting that same figure? 144,698. 144. Yeah, you are all getting that same figure. 144,698. Valuation for the closing work in progress. So if that is the value, now you get this total. You also get this total. So this total is what should also be there. That total, you also have it at this point. That's the totals for this. So that this one must be the balancing figure. That to the next process under the first in, first out, it will be the balancing figure. It will be the balancing figure in that order. So what should be the totals? So that should be your part C of the question. That should be your part C of that question. So to process 3 is the output, which will be the balancing figure, which will be the balancing figure. So balance it off, because now this total and this will be the same total on the other side. When you are using the first in, first out method, the output to go to the next process will be the balancing figure. So that is now on that question. For now, I cannot go to another question because it will still take 1.5 hours, which we cannot be able to finish for now. So we shall stop there. We shall be required to stop there, but finish the question. I will confirm the totals that you have calculated. So we can stop there for now.